Hello, my name is Celine Bartelds and welcome by my video about my RSK3 workshop assignment. In this video I will start with the research questions, then the literature review, methodology, quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, and then the conclusion and reference list. The research questions related to the business decision making are: is there a gender difference regarding business students' decision-making styles? Namely, rational, dependent, intuitive, spontaneous, and avoidant? Is there a relationship between business students' decision-making styles and their business experiences? What factors may negatively influence the decision-making process of management team in your internship company? To research this, I will start with the literature review. In the literature review, 5 articles are reviewed. The first article is Decision-making Style, the Development and Assessment of a New Measure. This article shows how Scott and Bruce made the general decision-making style instrument, which started with a 4-sample study to identify the skills rational, avoidant, intuitive, and dependent. In the process of skill development, the 5th skill, spontaneous, identified. Extra research about this new instrument was done in the second article, which is a psychometric evaluation of the general decision-making style inventory. This article studied the psychometric properties of Scott and Bruce's general decision-making style instrument, and in particular its factor structure and skill reliability. Next to that, it also studies the relationships between scores of the 5 different styles and social desirability. The third article is a continuation research on both Scott and Bruce's article and on Lou's article, which were just reviewed, and is called An Examination of the General Decision-Making Style Questionnaire in 2 UK Samples. This article examines the psychometric properties and tries to validate the instrument. In this article, the factor structure is analyzed by doing 2 surveys with both 200 UK business studies undergraduates, of which the findings are on the slides. The fourth article is an article with similar research questions but with a different sample. The article is Decision-making Styles, Stress and Gender among Investigators. This article studied the relation between police investigators, decision-making styles, judgmental self-doubt, and different aspects of how the work is organized. It also studies the relation to different indicators of stress and well-being while considering gender. To do this, a survey was done with 203 police investigators in Sweden. The 5th article is called Variations in Decision-making Profiles by Age and Gender, a Cluster Analytic Approach. This article looks at the general decision-making style instruments from a person-centered approach instead of from a variable-centered approach, which all previous research has done, and it researches age and gender differences in decision profile. The research shows that individuals' decision-making approaches depend upon multiple approaches when making decisions, and that the age and gender may influence the decision-making process. The literature review showed a very good instrument to determine the decision-making styles, namely the general decision-making style inventory, and also showed why it is reliable to use. Continuing with the methodology. In this research, both quantitative and qualitative research will be conducted and analyzed. Because of this, a pragmatism paradigm will be used as a psychological framework. For quantitative research, a sample of 142 business students was used. This data was provided, which also causes that a sampling technique is unknown, but is expected to be a non-probability sampling method. For qualitative research, a sample of 2 was used. More students would have been advisable, but there was a time constraint. They were chosen according to the non-probability sampling technique, purposive sampling, and after that, availability sampling, again because of a time constraint. The instruments used were an online questionnaire that was available for IBMS students at the Hanze Blackboard, and interviews that were recorded with permission. The quantitative research was analyzed using SPSS. And then to determine if there was a difference between genders, an independent sample t-test was used, because gender and decision-making styles are both independent variables. To determine if the business experience influenced the decision-making style, the one-way ANOVA was used, because this shows per category of amount of business experience the difference in decision-making style. The qualitative research was analyzed using Atlas-TI by comparing the codes to each other and putting them together in one network. The quantitative research is not completely reliable, because for that the Cronbach's alpha should be above 0.7, because that shows that the questions measure the same information. To hide the Cronbach's alpha, questions 20 and 5 were removed. Question 10 could have also been removed, but Cronbach's alpha for that variable was already above 0.7. To make the questions for the interview reliable, questions from previous research were used. To make sure the right data was used, a summary of the interviews were sent back to the interviewees. Continuing with the quantitative analysis. The null hypothesis to determine if gender influences decision-making is that there is no difference between male business students and female business students regarding their decision-making styles. Using the independent sample t-test, these are the group statistics, and these are the actual results with p-values and significance. Looking at this and knowing that the null hypothesis is rejected when lower than 0.05, we can say that there is no difference between male students and female students regarding their decision-making. The null hypothesis for the influence of business experience on the decision-making is that there is no difference between a business student's decision-making style and their business experiences. This time using the one-way ANOVA test. These are the descriptives in which you can see that all three groups are considered, and this is the ANOVA test showing the p-values and significance. Again, the null hypothesis would be rejected if it was lower than 0.05, but since this is not the case, the null hypothesis stating that there is no difference between a business student's decision-making style and their business experiences is accepted. Continuing with the qualitative analysis. For the qualitative analysis, the interview transcriptions were coded. The interviews were divided in three main sections: the general information, the decision-making style, and the decision-making in the internship. Using these codes, you can see that there are 20 codes in regards to the internship decision-making, and 17 of those were negative. The codes resulted into 3 different networks, one for each group. So general information, one for decision-making style, and one for the decision-making in the internships. This network shows that the main negative influences were criteria changes, vagueness of goals, missing guidelines, hierarchy and control of supervisors, change of plans and time available. In conclusion, to answer the research questions, there is no gender difference regarding the business students' decision-making styles. There is no relationship between their business experience and the business students' decision-making styles. And the factors negatively influencing the decision-making process are the changing of plans, time availability, hierarchy and control of supervisors, missing guideline, criteria changes, and vagueness of goals. These conclusions are somewhat in line with previous research. The conclusion about gender is in line with the research done by Liu, but then the article from Salo and Altwood did show some gender differences. The conclusion about experience also differs, since most research have. Continuing with the qualitative analysis. This is the end of my video. Thank you for your attention, and here is the reference list.